What's up, everybody? What's going on? What's going on? Look, man, I was reading such a sad story. Um, it was unfortunate, actually. Let me chime you into what I was reading. Today's quick topic, is going to be about basically, I don't know, it's kind of off the top of my head. Is what reality are you choosing to live in, or and which realities are you choosing to ignore? And I say that because um, we all live collectively in the same reality as everyone else, but our experiences, um, our livelihood, our circumstances are completely different. Even if it's your neighbor or somebody that's going through something or has shared the same experience, like for example, like if you lost a loved one, um, even though you share the same experiences, it's unique to each individual, because everybody's backgrounds are different. Correct. So I think we can all agree that we live in the same reality, but individually we live in separate, almost like alternate universes of each other, but we technically live in the same time and space. It's kind of weird when you think about it like that, but it really is the truth. So what reality do you choose to live in? What realities do you choose to ignore? I was just reading an article. It says claim of St. Louis County lynching goes viral on social media, but police say it was a suicide. Pretty sad. What happened to Dane Jones? Or I'm saying Dane. Danny Jones, son of Ferguson, activist found hanged from a tree. It's pretty sad, man. I mean, pretty freaking sad. Mother lost her son, and the police are saying it's a suicide. Before I jump in any bandwagon like that, I would like to know the facts. But usually, when something like this happens, it is a big cry of foul because parents know their kids more than anybody. I can attest to that. My parents know me more than anybody. I keep them updated regularly. Can't say that about everybody, but what I can say is that the case could be a little suspicious. So hopefully more information will come out more about that later on. But let's get started on this topic. And the reason why I wanted to bring up this topic is because it's such an important one today as it was yesterday. Our country is going through a lot right now. We saw a huge spike in racial tensions when Obama obviously joined office, and mainly that spike came from, I would probably say, the alt right, or the people that would identify as either neo Nazis or white supremacist hate groups, or the White Nationalist Party. I think most of the hate came from them because obviously it's a black man in a seat of power that they wanted absolutely nothing to do with and had absolutely nothing to do with. So I think it was pretty interesting to see that the people who put Obama in were none other than, I will call them the classified group, the group that we don't know who, how much power that group actually has in this country. But this country is divided very distinctively into different groups. You have a group based on every ethnicity, and you have a group of whites that are divided in this country as well. I would say that that causes the biggest amount of strife in the country is the different factions of white people that we have in this country. You have a faction of white people that want nothing to do with racism, want nothing to do with privilege or anything. They just simply want equality and peace for everyone. And I love those people. You have the other group of people who, like I was saying earlier, like the nationalists, the people who feel this country was built, which it was, for white people, and they want it to go back that way, which is why you have a president that says he wants to make America great again, referring back to the old days of when everybody else worked for them. This is their country. They're just governing it to make sure that everybody else who comes here, who is non-white, knows their place and also can have a good life, but to always remember that they're working for whitey. They're working for the man. They're working for the people who govern the country. This country is for them to enjoy all of the spoils and for you to work hard, and they may throw you a few crumbs so you're not poor. Or if you are poor, you're going to continue to be the highest tax. So in that regard, you have those people. And then you have a faction of the people that I would say are people who are the white people who choose to be indifferent. They choose not to necessarily grab straws with the people who, with their counterparts who dislike anything to do with the white nationalists. And they just choose to kind of live in peace for them. But what they're doing is you're being ignorant and you're ignoring what's going on around you. Those are the three factions of white people. Now, like I said, you have a group with every ethnicity who is in this country. And this all goes and boils down to, what do you feel, what reality are you living in? You may be a white person. You may belong to one of those groups. You may be black, like myself. You may be Hispanic, Latino, Oriental, Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese. You could be anybody, right? And whatever you identify with is your reality will be shaped quite differently than everybody else's. See, I live in the world. My reality is when I say we, I mean black people of America. We live in a world, in a country where everything is expected of you. You're expected to serve the country. You're expected to work hard. You're expected to be a positive civilian in society, to contribute to the greater good of our country. But on the back end, you're also expected to be worth less. You're also expected to be paid less. You're also expected to be treated less than other members of the human family that support this country. That's the reality that I live in. That's the reality that has been built, that has always been, and hopefully will not continue to be in existence for much longer. When you start talking about realities and different things like this with other people who belong to it, who identify with a different type of reality than you, the first thing that you need to do is to have a good dialogue, is to be able to listen to one another, try to understand and decipher what they're saying to you or what you're saying to each other, and then that way you can actually learn from what's going on. That's how communication works. You may not agree with everything people say to each other, but if you listen, you will come out of it having a better understanding for why each party feels the certain way that they feel. So the reason why I say that's the black reality is because that is the truth. This country has done so much as far as racism is concerned, as far as ill treatment is concerned. And we never really moved past it. It just kind of smoothed over. They say time heals all, but in our case, time has not healed all. In our case, time is getting worse as time goes on. Some people will say, if you look back as far as the 50s, it's not nearly as bad. Now, when I say it's getting worse, what I mean by that is that to me, the difference between now and the 50s is quite simple. The things that make it different. I think that a few of the differences is A, social media. B, I think at some point the alt-right or the nationalist white Americans in this country somehow they didn't go away, but they somehow were their position was taken over. And I believe that position was taken over slowly by the other faction of whites who just can't stand racism, can't stand any of that stuff. And they're actually trying to progress the country, because I think the big thing with slavery, when you think about it, for the times, slavery was it had to be abolished because it was no longer a working model. And it's not a working model that will sustain a country in the long haul. It's not a model that will promote a country's growth by continuing to adopt and continue to have that model. So I think eventually it had to be dealt away with, and the importance of the country moving forward was more important than just the Slavery Act. And we can see that because you'll see things like Jim Crow, all the laws that were put in place to then hold freed slaves basically in contempt, like basically hold them down to where, yeah, you're free, but you cannot be you cannot be a contributing factor in society. And we've moved past that till now. Things have gotten slightly better as far as rights, et cetera. But when you're talking about that, that's nothing to be excited about, because every human being in the world deserves human rights, right? So to be given that by another man it's pretty sad when you think about it, because somebody else is writing on a piece of paper, giving you your freedom or taking it away. The biggest struggle for Black Americans, everybody wants to say, we just want to be equal. And unfortunately, you can't have that type of solution with a person or people or individual or an ideal who doesn't see everybody as equals. Do you see what I'm saying? So I feel like the fight in this country about becoming equal and being equal is the wrong fight to have. Everybody is equal. We know that. Certain people don't know that. And because they don't want to accept that and they don't want that, it just means that we're going to go around in a ring around the rosy, with trying to have the same rights as others. A lot of people will scream and say that white people have white privilege. And I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking to myself, I said, you know what? It's not really privilege in those people's eyes. For white people, And when I say white people, I mean the alt-right. For the alt-right white people, it's not a privilege. They see it as a right, like a birthright. Because again, this country was founded for them, right? It was founded for them. We built it. And so it's not a privilege for them. It's a right. And just as their right to be superior above everybody else, they also feel like you're stepping out of your role when you want to be equal, because they don't have any interest in sharing equality with anybody else. And that's why they hate Jews. That's why they hate sympathetics, other sympathetic white people, or white people who can't stand what they're about. That's why they can't stand people like that. It's because their mentality to them is everything. It's superior. If you don't share that mentality, then you're nothing. You're useless. So it's sad, man. It's sad. I think you really have to have a conversation. If you have to have a conversation with yourself. If you belong to any of these groups, like I said, I know I belong to the black group of America, who have started to wake up and have started to realize that the entire world has been perpetuated. If you read your Bible and you read about Satan and what he's going to do, or you read your Quran and you see what the devil told God that he was going to do, you will start to see that there has been a direct correlation with humanity itself that you cannot deny since the coming of Satan, right? Everything has been turned upside down. People from all walks of life, all colors, have been subjected to hell on earth. And when I'm saying this, I'm talking about humanity as a whole. I'm talking about where the Satanistic mindset from the Bible has played out with humans in this world. Ever since the Caucasian group escaped the Caucasus Mountains, came out of the Caucasus Mountains, and actually started building their own civilization, or learning about civilization, they came out of those mountains like a bat out of hell. They came out of those mountains angry. They came out of those mountains ready to ready to kill. You know what I mean? Ready to kill. And they have single-handedly, and when I say they, I'm not singling everybody out. What I'm saying is I'm talking about a group of people. I'm not saying all those people were bad, because we know all those people are not bad and they weren't bad. But what I'm saying is, collectively as a group of human beings, they set forth and went across the world to not only learn about what they had missed out on, but to take everything back. And the quickest way to build your civilization is not to build it from scratch. It's to look around and see who has done it right. They went around and they say, we're going to pick who did it right. Because by doing that, they can then advance their own culture. They can make up for lost time. And that's exactly what happened. People think, and the alt-right, the nationalists, the KKK, the racist white people truly believe that they were first and they will be last. But what they refuse to tell you is that they took black people because we were everywhere on the earth. Everywhere they went, they saw us there. Everywhere they went, They saw our accomplishments. Everywhere they went, they were surrounded by blacks. The best way to advance yourself is to figure out what we were doing to make that happen. They had to figure out the secrets, the techniques. They had to figure out everything. And that's what they went and did. So when they tell you that, oh, we took you from Africa and you were swinging in trees and blah, 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 it's not true. Because why the hell would you take somebody who is primitive, which that's what they want you to think you are. They want you to think that you're primitive, no knowledge, no purpose. And they took you to build a country. That doesn't make any sense because our people have done so much more, right? They've done so much more. They know we've done so much more, and they're trying to figure out how we've done it. They try to figure out all of our knowledge. And then in retrospect, they then took the knowledge for themselves and then proceeded to make us dumb, because you can't have two cultures operating at the same time, with assuming the same identity. So they had to stop that. And they've done quite a good job. People say that's kind of impossible to do, but when you think about it, 400 plus years of a plan will definitely work. And that's where it's led us to now. You know what I mean? The biggest issue with America is that they've never stopped the cycle, and they've never actually gone back and made it right. They tried to do it with the Native Americans, the Indians, and you've seen how they turned out. They've tried to do it with every single group of people that's non-white. But they've collectively killed everybody around the world. It's crazy. The world we live in is upside down, inside out. And to begin to fix our situation, we have to really, really seek the truth. And the truth means that you have to seek true history to find out where you came from, to know where you're going to go. There's a lot of brothers and sisters that are waking up slowly. I'm still working on people that are in my life that haven't quite woken up or seen past the fog. You know what I mean? When you're living in the matrix, it's hard for at any given point in time for somebody to tell you, "Hey, you're living in the matrix," because you have no standing, no relative point, no action, no nothing critical that has happened to make you become aware. Some people call it deja vu. Some people call things like that, like deja vu, butterfly effect, all kinds of different things to explain glitches in the matrix, or to explain what's really happening versus the reality that you are choosing to live in. We all have those moments. They're at different points in our lives, but I would say that just about everybody will have a moment in time in their life where they actually realize where they are and what's going on. It happens all the time. It's very important that everybody has that experience, because when you have that experience, then you will have a beginning. You will have somewhere to start, right? You can listen to people talk to you all day, speaking facts about something, but because your mindset isn't ready, because there's no catalyst to trigger a personal experience with yourself in the world that we live in, you'll never see past the fog or even realize that you're looking through fog to know your true situation. And it doesn't matter what color you are. And that's why I said a lot of people on social media get upset. I had to delete everybody off my Facebook, man, because there were a lot of people that were responding in ways that, in my opinion, were, were grounds for being a closet racist, or just plain ignorant. Things that I would post that would be posting up truth and facts. They would be offended. Some people would be offended. And I would be shocked to see that somebody would be offended by something that is factual, and almost get upset with you, like you're the one who made it up. And it's like, no, this really happened. You can go research it. I didn't make it up. I'm just reposting it so people can be aware. But people will get upset at you for speaking about truth, because truth is taboo. You know what I mean? In the Quran, it says when truth comes, falsehood vanishes. And falsehood will forever be a vanishing thing. There are people around you who know about the Matrix. There are people around you who choose to operate in the Matrix because it benefits them. And there are people who don't know they're in the Matrix, right? There are people who find out that they are living in the Matrix, and they set out to do something about it, to expose it. And you have groups of people who don't want it exposed. That's what our history has been in this country, around the world. I was talking about it last night with my wife, and I was saying, we were talking about voting, and I said, in America, you think they allow you to think that everything can be fixed or everything can be addressed by voting for the right people to put in positions of power, that can make decisions on our behalfs, right? And we were saying, she was like, what would happen if if all the black people got out and voted? Maybe not for one of these politicians that are already up there, but maybe pick out one of their own. And I said, that is a good thought, but we've already tried that. You see, people have tried that. We have tried that. And every black person who has woken up and realized that we're in the Matrix, realize that everything that you've been taught and told has been skewed or lied, or a lie, have then set out to try to educate their own people to know what condition they're actually living in. They call black people the sleeping giant. And you have to ask yourself why they come up with these terms. What truth is behind these terms? The movies that you watch, what message are they trying to portray? What message are they trying to get through to your subconscious? These things that we hear every day are really disturbing. It's really happening. And we got to do something about it. But this was just like a precursor. It was just to spark a little bit of thought, a little bit of debate, discussion about it's not even an argument. It's just simple. I want you to identify with what groups or what group of ethnic background in this country that you identify as, and then analyze and tell me what reality is for you in this shared space. Because I can tell you about my struggle all day long, but depending on your perspective of reality, your place in reality, how you live in your reality, you may not be affected by anything that I say or do. You might only become affected by what I say or do when some of the things or something that I'm talking about, when it comes to experiences and whatnot, if it then happens to you, then you can relate. So a lot of people are walking around, they hear people complaining, but they can't really identify with them because it hasn't happened to them. And so a lot of the strife in this country comes from, you know, people being upset. For example, like when Megyn Kelly at NBC just got fired because she said something about blackface, how she agreed with it and whatnot. See, that was her opinion. But this is how I feel about Megyn Kelly and people that identify or sympathize with Megyn Kelly. I don't know whether to be upset with them or laugh at them or what, but what I do know is that she was speaking her opinion and being completely genuine about what she was saying, right? She was being completely genuine and how she felt. And I feel like that's fine. I feel like that's great. She truly believes that there's nothing wrong with what she said, and she has no idea why people are upset about the things that she does say. She said things about Santa Claus being white and getting upset and arguing about it. Well, how can you argue about a fictional character that could be any color? It just so happens that when his original inception was they drew him white because people like likeness of their own kind. So we live in America where it's predominantly governed and ruled by white people. So many of the things that we're going to see in our cultures are going to reflect that. When you look at the Bible and you look at Christianity, they give you a white Jesus and white characters of the Bible to give it life, to give it a face, but they're all white, even though the book says where the people came from and what they look like. The book would tell you that Jesus is black, but because we're in the society that we're in, it has to reflect the people who rule. The people who rule are not black, they're white. So everything is going to be white. Everything's going to be whitewashed. And there's a lot of people that complain about these things on a daily basis. I see it all the time. And I'm just like, guys, we gotta, at some point, we gotta stop being upset about these things that are continuing to happen. Instead, we really need to take off my shirt real quick. Instead, we really need to figure out how to make it right, how to make it better. That's the real debate. That's what really should happen. But again, this country has a long way to go because the powers to be are not willing and they're not ready to give up power. The minute that power is passed along to the multicultural groups of this continent who help make this place a good place, whenever they decide to actually share it and practice what they preach, it's going to be very, very hard for anything to really change. White people are the minority when it comes to blacks, Hispanics, and now Asians. They're being outnumbered on the planet. They've been outnumbered on the planet from specific ethnic groups, some 11-1. And that was like up to 20, 30 years ago. So when you see things in America, like all of a sudden, a lot of interracial dating, my wife is actually white. She's a redhead. When you see things that are going on when it comes to interracial dating, some people look at it as a bad thing. Some people look at it as a good thing. Ultimately, what's happening in this country is white people who believe and know that we're all equal. They're not crazy. They are moving on and they're trying to make the world better for everybody else. Everybody's trying to make the world better. the group of white people that just refuse to do it, they're the ones that are upset and they're angry and it's starting to lash out. That's why you're starting to see, like I was saying, going back to at the beginning of this podcast, I was saying you're starting to see a dramatic rise from it started with Obama and is driven all the way up to Donald Trump, because you're starting to see now when an animal feels caged, when an animal feels threatened, they eventually lash out. The most dangerous animal is an animal that has been cornered. And the reasons why we're seeing a lot of the terrorist, the terroristic events that are happening, the mass shootings, the mass killings from white people, is because they're desperate and they're getting to a point where they feel like they're backed in a corner. Trump being the president, they're interpreting it as this is the guy that wants to rewind the clock and put things back to where they need to be. And he knows he's doing it because he identifies as one of them, and that's why he says the things that he says. He's a dog whistle. And then you see a lot more other white people that just can't stand him. They want him and everybody that shares those views out, right? So, again, people would tell you, which is going to bring me into my next topic. In the next one is going to be basically, can you be pro-black and be in an interracial marriage or a relationship? So I think it's going to be a really good one. Hopefully we can get my boy on the podcast, because this is going to be a good talk. But again, I just want you guys to think about what we were talking about today, as far as what reality you live in, what groups you belong to, and how that effectively shapes your way of life as we share time and space. You know what I mean? Like, tell me where you come from. Tell me what your struggle is. Tell me what you have dealt with. And we can see how we're similar and different, and how we can make it better for each other. Right. Without further ado, I will catch you guys later. Let's talk about it.